There is a stubborn, generational myth that bullying is simply a rite of passage. We treat it like a scraped knee, an unavoidable part of growing up that builds character and makes kids tougher. When a child suddenly develops a dread of school, starts having frequent stomach aches, or begs for sick days, adults tend to look for a standard virus. Teachers see repeated trips to the nurse's office and assume it's a phase the child will eventually outgrow. But these physical ailments are rarely random. They are the body's actual physiological response to severe psychological distress. Persistent bullying is an objective, measurable trauma exposure. It triggers physical changes in the brain and body that require professional clinical attention to resolve. When we frame this trauma as a phase to endure, we leave a severe clinical wound completely untreated. And like any physical wound ignored, it only worsens over time. The exposure events that trigger this trauma happen daily. A child is repeatedly targeted in the hallway or online through calculated exclusion, public humiliation, explicit threats, or direct physical harm. Over time, this repeated targeting creates what clinicians identify as a school bullying and trauma response. Take a look at this model of a child's nervous system. The repeated trauma throws their biology into a constant state of alert, trapping them in a chronic, unending fight or flight loop. This chronic biological distress mirrors the physiological signatures of clinical anxiety and depression. When the nervous system stays in this state, it maintains the same elevated heart rate and cortisol patterns found in diagnosed mood disorders. If the overload continues, the nervous system adapts to the constant threat. The data consolidates, and the child's physiological state begins to match the structural development pattern of post-traumatic stress. A bullied child's brain is locked in pure survival mode. It prioritizes basic threat detection over everything else, stripping away any capacity to learn, socialize, or thrive in a classroom. While the biological changes happen beneath the surface, the external behavioral changes are highly visible if you know what to look for. The red flags often start with a sudden drop in grades. You might notice belongings that consistently go missing or come home damaged, or watch a student pull away from their closest circle of friends. Then come the personality shifts. A child might have a noticeable rise in irritability or angry outbursts. Their sleep becomes disrupted by nightmares. A once confident, outgoing student becomes quiet, anxious, and hyper-watchful of their surroundings. A moment of wonder. So if the signs are there and the pain is severe, why do these suffering children rarely ask an adult to intervene? They are actively silenced by deep-seated shame. They carry a paralyzing fear that reporting the abuse will only invite worse retaliation from the very people targeting them. The absence of a spoken complaint does not equal safety. Often, a child's silence is the loudest and most urgent symptom of their trauma response. Bullying is never a child's fault, and because we are dealing with an objective clinical injury, we cannot fix it by simply telling a child to ignore their abusers. Healing requires a specific clinical treatment, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, or TFCBT. Guided by a licensed clinician, TFCBT works to intentionally process the traumatic experience. It gives the child concrete tools to manage their anxiety and actively rebuilds their shattered self-esteem. This hub-and-spoke diagram illustrates the MentalSpace school model. They are a modern K-12 integrated infrastructure built to deliver this exact clinical intervention directly into Georgia schools. MentalSpace removes logistical friction, providing same-day teletherapy, diverse therapists, and dedicated clinical teams for each school. Beyond student care, the system provides the necessary framework for suicide and violence prevention, staff wellness programs, and required HB 268 reporting tools. The entire system is fully HIPAA and FERPA compliant. Care is highly accessible, accepting major commercial insurances like Blue, while offering this vital therapy at zero cost for students on Medicaid. When we stop dismissing bullying as a childhood rite of passage and start treating it as the medical injury it actually is, the outcome improves. With immediate, professional care from MentalSpace School, children can and do heal.